TSB Talk Sport and Business. I'm Neil on Talk 100.3, and as we've been keeping an eye on everything that's happening in the world of sports, India will be going to West Indies to play their series. They'll be playing the red ball cricket. They'll be playing some white ball cricket as well. And a lot of conversation has happened about Cheteshwar Pujara being dropped. That one bad test match and you drop Cheteshwar Pujara. Is that the end of Cheteshwar Pujara is the question, while Ajinkya Rahane, who on the back of some fabulous performance in the IPL got his seat in the test match, the WTC finals, played well and has now been made the vice captain. Like, absolutely contrasting outcomes for both these players, Pranav.
Neil, I think at the core of the situation, and this is from a common man's point of view, or call it the fans' perspective, that BCCI didn't have a proper pathway into Test cricket selection. A couple of the players that were picked in, say for example an Ishan Kishan or a Shreyas Iyer, they came at the back of some brilliant T20 performances or maybe even IPL performances. So it does add weight to when someone, a legend like Sunil Gavaskar, says, stop playing Ranji Trophy. If you're getting picked off the IPL, continue doing the IPL. So there's weight in what Sunil Gavaskar says. And at the same time, the Indian cricket team also has a problem of plenty. You look at Cheteshwar Pujara, he didn't perform well in the World Test Championship final, sure, but he made it count when he travelled to county to play in England. Ajinkya Rahane, for example, he played a brilliant IPL tournament. He came back, he proved his selection as well with his performance in the World Test Championship final. But how do you phase out some of the older and experienced players in order to accommodate the younger players? I agree with the selection of a Yashasvi Jaiswal, maybe even an Ishan Kishan, Ruturaj Gaikwad, for example. All these players need to get an opportunity, but how do you get them into the team? That's the question the BCCI selectors have, and somehow they're going at a random stage, pick and choose, maybe trial and error, and this trial and error is not going to work. End of the day, with the introduction of the World Test Championship, every point counts, so there's no room for error.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. There is no room for error. But then again, the opportunities should come to the people who are probably playing the right format, who are probably putting in the hard yards. An opportunity for a player like Yashasvi Jaiswal, who's performed extremely well throughout the domestic season in the red ball format, in the white ball format, and in the IPL also he did well. He's definitely been taken with the squad, but will he get a chance to play? That is the question that one has to understand and answer. But on the other hand, purely on the basis of the white ball that we've seen, a couple of selections that have been made, but some questions that have been pertinently asked, and especially by a certain Sunil Gavaskar, about Sarfaraz Khan, who played extremely well for Mumbai in the Ranji Trophy, but didn't get a call up. I personally feel that is a wrong shout. His fitness has always been a concern. You take him in the squad, and then you open many doors and throw the fitness, the conversation about fitness out of the window altogether, and say that it's okay if you're scoring runs. It doesn't matter if you're fit or unfit. We'll still take you in the Indian squad. I think that is a wrong example that you'll set if you pick Sarfaraz Khan.
Well, Neil, and some of the other comments were made about his not being included were also to do with his off-field gestures. Now, there was no elaboration on that. However, we know how internally these matters get solved, or sometimes, left in the open for people to just write stories about. So there's many a times where if you don't tell the facts as they are, the media will come up with whatever story that is. And that is an incorrect sort of position for us to be in as well. But do you think the way that at least Sarfaraz Khan has scored runs at domestic level, now let's keep it mainly about scoring runs because he's a batter, mind you, not an all-rounder, would he be one of those top players to not get involved in the Indian team but continue to score runs in the domestic circuit?
There are a bunch of such examples. Amol Mazumdar is a classic example, who was fit, who was scoring a ton of runs. And I take you back during the time when Sachin was playing, when Sanjay Manjrekar was playing, when Vinod Kambli was playing, and these were the guys who were playing from Mumbai. So to pick another player from Mumbai to make it to the Indian squad was something that would have probably called in for a bias towards the West Zone or towards the Mumbai Cricket Association. And thus, Amol Mazumdar, despite scoring the most number of runs till Wasim Jafar actually overtook him, was not taken and not selected for the Indian side. I personally feel that was a loss for India and not for just Amol Mazumdar. But at the same time, he was fit. He was someone who could walk into any side at any given point in time. In today's time and age, when a lot of weightage is put on a person's fitness, there are some amount of tests that one has to clear to be, to be even considered to be a part of the squad. Sarfaraz Khan will fail all of them.
Now, Neil, I just want to pause on that and get your thoughts more on this, because this is something that maybe the fans might not understand or the common public might not. You're a strength and conditioning coach. You've worked in terms of fitness for players. Now, for a person who's watching this on television, a Rishabh Pant might look unfit. A Rohit Sharma might look unfit because of the tummy they have, or maybe because of the body fat. A Ravi Ashwin, for example, who's toiled his life in Test cricket, he might look unfit at this certain stage. And I'm seeing a lot of tweets on how Sarfaraz's weight is, for example, 65 or 66 kilos, compared to how Rohit Sharma's might be an 81 or an 85. Rishabh Pant on 78. Numbers are being mentioned over here, but what are some of those tests that need to be passed by a certain player, and why do, even though some people are lighter in weight, they still fail it?
Well, see, one thing for sure that, the Sarfaraz Khan stat that we're probably talking about his weight is definitely an old stat. He's no way, by any way, he is not 64 kgs. He's not tall. He's not a tall lad. He's 5 feet 5 inches tall, and the height doesn't change after a certain point in time. His weight definitely is not 65, 64 kgs. He would be in the late 80s, if not more. Now, shifting focus to your question on what kind of tests are done, yo-yo test is one of the most common tests that is performed, the shuttle run test, wherein players are made to run between 2 cones, 2 points, and they have to keep running within the stipulated time that has been given to them. The more shuttles they do, and there is a benchmark that has been put by every board. So the most strenuous regulatory benchmark has been put by New Zealand. And after that are the other boards, and I can tell you that it's a classic thing. You watch any New Zealand cricketer and they don't look unfit. Forget any test. Some of our Indian cricketers, they do look a little unfit. They do look that they are a little overweight, and all of these things can be probably seen in your test results as well. Some of the other tests that are done are the 2-kilometer run. It's an endurance test where a player has to run 2 kilometers within a stipulated time frame. Every country, again, every cricket board has a different benchmark for that. The other tests that are done are sprint tests, that how quickly do you run a 40 meter, a 60 meter, a 20 meter sprints. Apart from that, there are some other weightlifting tests that are done on how much can you bench press. Apart from that, your squats. You have to also undergo a test on your endurance test, on your core stability test. So these are various tests, and these are again designed by the strength and conditioning coaches, the fitness coaches, and are approved by the board as your parameters for approving and selecting players. So this is again dependent on the cricket board, but most of these are common across various cricket boards, Pranav.
All right, let me ask you this question, Neil, and it's a pretty straightforward question. Now, the selection processes for the IPL and for the national team, do they vary?
Oh yes, 100%.
It's a yes or no question.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
100%. Yes.
All right, because I bring this up because Sarfaraz Khan played in the 2023 Indian Premier League. I think he was with the Delhi Capitals, if I'm not mistaken, and he's played 4 matches, had 4 innings, nothing to brag about, just 53 runs and at a strike rate of 85.48. But he's made it to the team. He's made the cut. He's been on the field, right? So he gets selected for an IPL team, but he doesn't get selected for the nationals.
See, national team, first thing, the reason why you get picked for a national team is because you've done exceedingly well in your domestic circuit. Okay, that is one thing. There are already players who are playing in the national circuit. You have to replace someone. So that makes your job all the more difficult, which means that the person who you intending to replace, or the board is intending to replace you, has to underperform, and you have to exceedingly overperform to make the cut. That's one thing. As far as IPL is concerned, the pool is much bigger because there are 10 teams that are playing. So you, as a specialist batter, get a chance because there are so many Indian players up for grabs for every single team. Apart from that, your role as a specialist batter is very specifically for those number of days that you have to perform, and there is an option for you to just go bat and sit out. In international circuit, I mean, obviously I'm talking about the impact
rule.
player rule, right? In international cricket, there's no such rule. When you're out in the field, then you have to go out and field also for 20 overs, 50 overs, or all 5 days, depending on the format that you're playing. You don't get a chance to have that lapse of a moment. In international cricket, you miss out on that chance, you will never get it back. And I personally feel that there are multiple other players who are more efficient, are fitter, and probably can do the job better in the outfield also after batting as compared to Sarfaraz Khan. And that's where I rest my case that it is not his batting that is putting out the question.